Jason did the accompaniment on these songs. So I think in one you played the piano and the other you played the guitar. So here we go, we're playing The Wall by Namewee. So the blue sky and the green earth is my perch. If something is your perch, it's your home. So he's saying Taiwan is my home. And the scenery you fancy, or the scenery you like. Now the girl is singing. I think the girl is representing China. She's saying, my mom is very strict. So like when they say the motherland, they're referring to China or the Chinese Communist Party. So the motherland is very strict. China is very strict. She shut me in a greenhouse, just like the fragile flower. So I think it's talking about the Great Firewall of China and how the Chinese people have had their wings clipped by the Communist Party. Their freedoms have been curtailed by the Communist Party, and they are behind a great firewall. Also, their news is carefully curated by the Communist Party, and every news agency in China is authorized or under the auspices of the Chinese Communist Party. So they only really hear one side of the news, which is the side that the Communist Party wants them to hear. I want freedom, but I can do nothing. This is talking about how, you know, the people of China would like to have more freedom, but they feel that resistance to the Communist Party is futile. And it's a sad thing, you know, when the people of a country have reached the point to where they feel like there's nothing they can do to make things better, and they have resigned themselves to their fate. Okay, this is Taiwan speaking. I'll wait for you outside the wall.
You know how obvious that is.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. That, I mean, the metaphors in this song are really obvious, not hard to understand. The wall reminds me of the Berlin Wall. So right after the end of World War II, the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the Western countries, like you know, the other countries of Europe and the US, started. And the Soviets built a wall that divided the city of Berlin, and families were trapped. Some were trapped on one side of the wall and they couldn't see their family members on the other side. And they had armed guards on the wall, ready to shoot anyone who tried to climb from East Germany, which was the communist side, into West Germany, which was the democratic side. So this lyric reminds me of the Berlin Wall, and I would really be happy if we could see the end of the wall that's been erected by the Chinese Communist Party, which isn't a physical wall, but is a virtual wall that divides the people living in China from the rest of the world. Let's see. SZD says, it also represents the thoughts, the wall, not only in terms of the firewall, but also in terms of their mind. Well, I would argue that, you know, that they have to some extent been brainwashed by the propaganda machine employed by the Communist Party. SED said, wall can also be physical, but it can also be mentally trapped. Yeah, and that goes back to the propaganda that I was talking about, that, you know, the Soviet Union used the The Nazi Party in Germany used it during World War II. And most authoritarian regimes have a propaganda machine of one sort or another that is under the direct control of the government. And that separates democratic countries from autocratic countries. In democratic countries, we have media that is not under the direct control of the government. I'm waiting for your reply. So, China is waiting for response from the Taiwanese people. I hear your breath and your heartbeat. I'll always wait for you outside the wall. So this shows the deep connection between, the people who are trapped behind the wall in Hong Kong and China with the people who are free in Taiwan. And they share a similar heritage. And it's that heritage that the Communist Party has tried to use against them, to say that the Chinese must be united under one government, and that the communist-ruled government is the only government strong enough to rule all Chinese people. I would argue that the Chinese people don't need to be combined under, one government. You will always have a similar heritage, just as the British and the Americans will always have a similar heritage, even though we have different governments. The SZD said it means waiting for the reply from China, which means maybe the Chinese people will gain freedom one day after the liberation of China. Well, SZD, that would be my hope and dream, that that change could come within, and that the people of China could somehow peacefully bring about that change without the loss of blood. That would be the ideal situation, and that is what I hope for. How I hope a miracle would appear. And yes, at the time it does appear that it would take a miracle to rid China of the Communist Party. It reminds me, someone who commented in the last live stream, they were talking about it's impossible to get rid of the Communist Party because a majority of people in China are members of the Communist Party. And I mentioned about how that it becomes necessary almost to become a member or become affiliated with the party in order to secure your livelihood, to secure your job, and earn a living for your family. And I would say that if the majority of Chinese people are members of the Communist Party, which I'm not sure of, I would say most are members by necessity, and that is they want to protect their families and their jobs. But it is kind of defeatist to say I hope a miracle would appear. Hoping for divine intervention is not going to solve the issues at hand in China. Every molecule in the air is filled with our untold chemistry. So I think this refers to, the fact that together, free, the people of Hong Kong and the people of Taiwan and the people of China could do amazing things. They could revolutionize the world. It's not enough to have, a handful of countries that are free around the world. We need every country on earth to be free in order to realize the real potential of humans.